Okay, here we go.
All right, people. I keep getting emails from people telling me to dismantle some of the arguments of this Thomas Sowell guy, and apparently he's one of the foundational thinkers of the right, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's do it. Every time I see shit from this guy, it comes off stupid as fuck. So, yeah. Oh, wait. Sorry, we're going to be amicable, okay? Hello, my fellow conservatives. I am just a disillusioned liberal, and I just had some questions about the works of the man Thomas Sowell. Okay? Here, so let me think about this. Hello, make sure to subscribe.
I think we're talking across purposes. On the one hand, we're talking about results
So this is Thomas Sowell dismantles egalitarianism. Okay, let's do it.
that we're hoping for. On the other hand, we're talking about processes that we're setting in motion. You're saying, should we hope for certain kinds of lessening of inequality and so on? The real question, the political question is, shall we set in motion certain processes because we hope for that? And do those processes enhance or reduce freedom? And I think the argument that Milton's making, certainly the argument that I would make, is that the attempt at doing these things, and it doesn't really matter, it's a complete straw man to talk about absolute inequality. No, not
yes,
at all.
it is.
No.
Absolutely. Throughout the film, this is the straw man he brings up in order to say how ridiculous to have absolute equality. And then he goes on to say how ridiculous to have
My
absolute
whole point is,
homogenization as well.
as a result, you see, that you set up processes whose end result may not be any more or less inequality than exists now, but the question is, those processes may indeed reduce freedom greatly. I would go.
Okay, so there are two types of equality: equality of outcome and equality of I guess, of process. Equality
Okay,
from a sort of foundational position. So
according to this
is
guy.
some people call it equity versus equality. Oh, equality of opportunity. Thank you. Yeah. Though honestly, I would argue even equality of opportunity is kind of a misnomer, because nobody has the same opportunities in life. It's more, have we done everything we can to ensure that everyone's getting a fair shake, a fair chance at an equal outcome? Not that everyone has an equal outcome, that's not possible, but everyone has access to the same basic freedoms and processes. Now, here's the same conservative grift that gets played every single fucking time I...
Why on earth should a person have access to the same processes, in his words? I don't know why he would use that word, as someone else. Why on earth is that an okay thing?
hear one of these idiots open their stupid fucking mouths, okay? The left claims to want equality. What do they mean by that? Do they mean equality of outcome, where we're all exactly the same? Well, that's impossible. Equality's impossible. I hear it every single fucking time. It's insane how often they do this. Well, that can happen, actually, obviously. Nobody, let me be perfectly clear about this, nobody talks about equality of outcome. Nobody does. Absolutely nobody. Nobody. Zero people do. Okay? When we're talking about equality of outcome, the concept of equality of outcome is this nebulous, dystopic, concept that nobody seriously advocates for in politics. Nobody does. When people talk about equality, people are talking about equality of opportunity, equality of access, equality of process. That's what people are talking about. Very simply, if you are born in this world, it is best that everyone have basically the same shot at being able to succeed. Does that mean everyone will succeed? No, of course not, obviously. Even in some perfect communist world or whatever, like where everyone's super perfectly equal or whatever, there will still be differences in people's performance. There will still be differences in people's outcomes. And I think that's a beautiful thing, by the way.
Why should a person have the same shot as someone else? Think about that. Why on earth, I don't know why I keep saying on earth, should a person have the same shot as someone else? Other than that, they earned it. Somehow. And you can't earn it just by being alive.
Nobody does. Everybody likes the variety in humanity that they see as a product of inequality of outcome. Everybody likes that. Nobody wants to be exactly the same height, strength. But the thing is, the equality of outcome is such a stupidly impossible, undesirable concept. Nobody's going out to bat for it. So when people like Thomas over here are like, well, you have this thing called, you have it called equality of outcome. Nobody's talking about it.
He didn't mention the equality of outcome at all. The only equality he mentioned, he did not describe fully, and he was suggesting that it was so far-fetched to have it as a discussion that he didn't want to endorse it.
About this. And when people who pretend to be intellectuals waste any of their time on this idea, what they're trying to do is give you the false impression that there's some other political entity, the left, that does care about this, and their dystopic vision will reign and destroy all of America as we know it. No. Nobody talks about this.
Go beyond the question of equality and put it more generally, that any process to ascribe any status to any group of people, equality, inferiority, superiority, must necessarily reduce freedom, because whatever the...
That's true. That's something that's true. The only way is ever known throughout history to put these theories of equality, socialism, all of that into place. It has only been known to steal to get it done, murder to get it done, or strip people of what's actually a right to get it done. It hasn't been known throughout history to be achieved any other way. And even when these things are put into place, nobody ends up being equally prosperous. They end up being equally poor, with a few, because that's generally how it works when these theories of equality and such are put into place. There's still a few who are living luxurious lives, while most of us are just scraping by.
Government wishes to ascribe to any group, whatever place, to use the phrase that was very common in the South, that blacks should have their place. Whatever place the government is going to assign to people, that place will not coincide, that place will not coincide either with what all those people are doing or with how others perceive all those people, because there's too much diversity among human beings.
This point is actually so stupid, it's actually unfathomable to me that he would attempt to make this. So what he's essentially arguing right now is that any time any sort of differentiated status is given to a certain group of people, it's dumb because there's diversity amongst people. This is an idiotic I have no idea what these two things have to do with one another. So, because Sowell is a conservative and thus must necessarily simp for corporations at every conceivable opportunity, what he's arguing for here is any sort of privileged position established by the government, in any sense, is actually an attempt to enforce equality of outcome, and that it's inequitable and it reduces human freedoms because there are so many differences between individuals that to try to enforce a categorization of like that upon them is to, I don't know, bring about bad outcomes. Here's the problem.
Notice that Thomas Sowell never mentions this equality of outcome thing, because equality of opportunity is just as bad. Nobody should get the same opportunities. The only way to bring that about is to steal, murder, or take away rights. Nobody, he knows that, which is what he said, any attempt to bring about equality must necessarily reduce freedom or take away rights or straight murder.
Well, first of all, the government is not the only institutions that put people into categories. Advertisers do that. Corporations do that. Insurance agencies do that. And also, the circumstances of your birth do that. The idea that people are on a completely level playing field from ground set and then the government is the one that fucks with the scales is a complete libertarian lie. It's not.
Nobody's saying that. At least Thomas Sowell isn't saying that. And it doesn't matter that corporations or other institutions put us into categories. I don't even know why he would bring this up. Because they're not stealing from us. They're not using force against us. They can't take away your rights. And you don't have a right to health care or money or any of that. You weren't born with that. And under a free system, corporations can't do any of those things. Other institutions can't do any of those things. Only the government can. It is the case that an institution can bring about these things, but that's only under a system that doesn't protect your rights. And in capitalism, your rights are protected. But he won't talk about that.
Not true. People are not born in equal positions. People are born to poor and wealthy families, to good and bad school districts, in neighborhoods which may or may not have good job opportunities, to parents who may or may not, by the way, be good parents. There are forms of inequality that aren't even products of racism or sexism or of economic differentiation. Sometimes it can be as simple as, my parents were good to me and yours were not. Sometimes it's that simple. There is no level playing field. The idea of there being some sort of natural state of man where everyone exists on a flat plane and then it's the government that fucks with that is it's just a complete lie. It's not true. It's never been true. And even if that was true, corporations also do that. So do cultural forces.
When people who advocate for freedom talk about humans being on the same level playing field, what they're really talking about when they say humans are equal, when people who advocate for freedom say this, they're talking about they have the same rights as anyone else. That's it. That's all. This guy, he is talking about things like equality of outcome, even though Thomas Sowell didn't mention that, and all these other things, just because he's prepared this in advance. He wouldn't be able to actually argue against someone like Yaron Brook. He wouldn't be able to do it. Because, not on the fly, because he's not honest. He's deliberately being dishonest.
Institution like racism disprivileges black people and privileges white people. That is an imposition now that has lessened human freedom. If the government...
This is a bogus argument. Because you're not free to, you don't have a right to other people's stuff. You're not free to do things, do as you please with other people's stuff. So you haven't lost anything when someone is racist to you. You just go and get your own stuff under a free government that protects your rights. This is how it works under capitalism. Racism doesn't really affect people the way people argue it does. It doesn't do it. It has always been the case that as long as people were free to do as they please, as long as they weren't infringing on anyone else's rights, that they have the capacity to get ahead. I don't know why he would say that an institution being racist reduces freedom, and that corporations do the same thing as governments. They don't do the same thing. Not under a free society, not under a free government, not under a free economy, a rights respecting one.
has the opportunity to bring those back into line, human freedom goes back to being enhanced. There's this implication here that any bias or restriction which is imposed by a non-government entity actually enriches human freedom, and any which is imposed by the government reduces human freedom. Now, don't get me wrong, the government can reduce human freedom just fine. Obviously, a libertarian. But there are ways in which the government can impose power to actually enhance freedom. Like, for example, welfare. Countries with higher welfare have higher wealth mobility. Did you guys know that? America's shit. You go over...
Guys, this just isn't true. If we just simply Google what are the countries with the most welfare, and if we can find that out, you'll find that it isn't the case. And then they'll blame the countries that are failing with their welfare, that have welfare and are failing, on corruption, but it'll always be the case that it is the welfare that brought about the corruption. But let's Google it. I can't show you guys at the moment. I'll probably put the links up later, but according to Yahoo, France has the most spending on welfare. So if we Google France, on the Economic Freedom Index, like most countries, like America, most of their stuff is private, and one could easily argue that the cause of all their prosperity is the result of things that fall more in line of Austrian economic policy. Free markets, private companies, a respect for property rights, And according to the Economic Freedom Index, it's got a trade freedom of 81%. It just doesn't add up that the cause, there might even be a correlation between the welfare programs, because if these guys have the welfare programs, but they're also some of the freer countries in the world. They're not a third world country. It isn't the case. What he said is not the case. That the more social welfare programs, the higher the welfare, the greater the mobility. It isn't the case. Like I said, this dude is dishonest. He's not an honest guy.
To the Scandinavian countries, these countries have way better wealth mobility and better welfare. Wealth mobility is almost a direct indicator of economic freedom. And it's not perfect over there, but it's better than
Yes.
Do you know why? Because if you're born poor in America, you're likely to stay poor. Welfare is a mechanism that
That's not true.
freedom because it means the circumstances of one's birth are less capable of preventing them from living an enriching, fulfilling life with equal opportunity to others. That's a government imposition. Now, that doesn't mean all welfare is good. It still has to be done well, and it will never be done perfectly. The argument will always continue. But the idea that, like, any kind of government imposition is inherently bad is fucking ridiculous. And by the way, this info like this is explicitly designed to serve...
What about the fact that it's still stealing? How does someone needing it or it helping someone else make it okay or moral to do something that isn't okay for an individual to do? Why can we all get together and do it, but an individual can't do it? It's either immoral in both places or moral in both places, and I don't think it's moral in both places. So it's immoral.
...serve the political interests of corporations. There's a reason why they go for this sort of thing.
To maintain any system of ascribed status from the top is going to mean reducing people's freedom across the spectrum. That's the point.
People have an
As I just said, this is obviously a ridiculous point.
ascribed status. It isn't as if government, by its intervention, creates it. People are born into this world
True.
in a given sector of a society, and many of them are born at the bottom of the society. The argument about equality of results was an argument that was linked to equality of opportunity. People recognized that unless there was a degree of equality in a degree of enough food, enough security, access to education, unless these things were available to all children, then equality of opportunity was merely a mockery. That's why equality of results became an issue, and it became an issue for black people in the United States, and they expressed their concern, whatever the opinion
You expressed
polls.
it, damn it, look.
Damn, wait, why am I even here if she's just fucking owning him? But this video is titled, Thomas Sowell Dismantles Egalitarianism. So I guess the people who watch this are just kind of dumb? I don't know. Just FYI, this guy studied at the Chicago school under Friedman, the same school and people that supported Pinochet in Chile. Chile, that's the world he wants, Google Chicago boys. Oh, yeah. Just to be clear, when people of these political ambitions actually get hold of governments, fascism is what results. Just to be perfectly clear. It's not some sort of beautiful egalitarian society where all live in freedom. It's the crushing of democratically elected socialists and the elevation of fascists who slaughter people for their political opinions. Thomas Sowell's priority here is not freedom of humans; it is freedom of capital.
No, they did not. They did not.
And whatever the
You
opinion
expressed
polls,
it, damn it. Look. No, they did not. They did not.
they
Damn it.
expressed that.
Wait, that's what they clap for? He says, no, you expressed it, damn it, and they clap for that? Who's the audience here?
They expressed their will by their extraordinary participation in a protest movement that began in the late 1950s and didn't end until
I
the
have
1960s. Intellectuals were not in that protest movement.
You want me to
Black
answer or you want to
people
keep
were
on?
in that protest.
Do you want me to answer?
Dude, what the fuck is wrong with him? He talked for way longer than her, and he's like mad that she's... Jesus Christ, salty.
I finished.
Good. Black people have never supported, for example, affirmative action, quotas, anything of that sort. Wherever polls have been...
I'm gonna need a citation on that. Also, wait, hold on. Even if that was true, nice it pull. That's not an argument.
taken a black opinion on such matters of should people be paid equally or should there be this or that. Black people have never taken a position that you described.
Wait, black people have never taken the position that they should be paid equally to white people? What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, what is this Uncle Ruckus shit? Like, hey, I'm a black guy. I've met a lot of black people. We don't actually care about being paid the same. What the fuck is going on right now? I mean, I don't have, like, polling data on hand. First of all, I don't need to support the popularity of these arguments to actually defend them. Even if nobody on Earth defended these arguments, they would still be perfectly valid if their premises could be defended. But even with that being said, you're telling me black people literally fought in the civil rights movement to not be able to be discriminated against in the employment. That was literally what they fought against in large part.
And what a mistake that was. What a mistake that was. Because what they're fighting for is the same things that they were fighting for before, and it's all counterproductive.
Which includes pay disparity.
So it is not a question of what black people chose to do. It's what you choose to put in the mouths of black people. It's what you choose to project.
Dude, this is Candace Owens, but 40 years ago. This is the exact same set of arguments. So first of all, he lies and makes up a position of black people, and then he says the person trying to help black people, is the real racist because they're pushing the narrative that black people don't want to be second-class citizens into the mouths of black people. This is the exact same set of arguments. No wonder the conservatives like this guy so much. It's perfect. He's anti-IDPOL, but he'll weaponize IDPOL when it's convenient to him. He talks about the necessity for human freedom, but then he'll use arguments of populism to argue against claims for human freedom. He'll lie about the needs and interests of black people and then claim others are racist when they tell him that that's actually not the case. What a fucking clown, dude. Holy shit.
It is not what any black people have ever said anywhere that you can put your finger on.
No black person has ever said they want equal pay for equal work. Damn, I would love to see a source on that, my dude. I think they had a whole fucking movement about that in large part. He's claiming to speak for all black people. It's extraordinary.
Put into the mouth of the pollsters, as far as I can see. Look at the leadership of the black community.
Like most people, I have never seen a pollster.
If you look at the leadership of the black...
Wait, he claims that the polls support him, and then he jokes about having never actually seen the polls? And they're clapping? That's yeah, if you look at the polls, they'll actually say black people don't care about getting paid equal work. You're forcing that on them, you fucking racist. Oh, I mean, I don't actually look at the polls, just like, oh, Bates Sowell, big brain.
But I want to go back to I want to carry it back to the earlier point. Number one, there's no question about what equality of results, if it comes about through a framework of freedom, is a desirable result.
Nobody talks about equality of results. Nobody talks about this. I don't know why we're continuing to talk about this.
Number two,
Oh, yeah. Hello, Milton Friedman. Sorry, I wasn't actually looking. Okay, now I know why the audience is clapping for Sewell. We have fucking Friedman in the audience.
argue in the film, I've argued here.
Sorry, one last pause. I want you to understand conservatism has always had one of these. It's vital to undermining the call for equality of minorities. Because it's racist if white conservatives say it, but if a black base says it and they simply affirm him, it's what the community wants. Yeah, of course, obviously. That's why the whole turncoat token shit is so important for conservatism. If a white guy went up there and said, black people don't want this, they would obviously and rightfully be called racist for it. But you find one black guy in a million who will say shit like, black people don't care about being paid equally, and then all of a sudden you can get the entire party behind them.
That in point of fact, you get greater equality of actual results by a system under which people are free to achieve unequal results. That for the poor people of the world...
Nobody is talking about building a system where people aren't free to achieve unequal results. He just said something tautological. Did you hear that? People are more free if they're free to have different results. This is one of the world's leading minds of laissez-faire capitalism, by the way.
...world that Francis Fox Piven was talking about. The most effective mechanism for enabling them to improve their status is not a governmental program which seeks to ascribe to them certain positions, which seeks to provide them with certain goods and services, but a governmental program which tries to eliminate arbitrary barriers to advancement. I would say that in this world...
So he's saying that rather than giving poor people food and money, instead we have less business regulations. Now, this is funny for a number of reasons. First of all, we have countries now that have better welfare states than America, and they prove this factually wrong. Lowering barriers to starting up a business doesn't mean shit if you don't have money to start up a business.
That's complete
He literally
nonsense.
is just talking about deregulation here, not giving people startup capital to make businesses. Because again, he sims for large corporations. And you can guarantee, by the way, the people inspired by Milton Friedman, the deregulation that takes place is not for small mom and pop companies, it's for big oil corporations, okay? It is, trust me, when this guy talks about deregulation, he is not talking about making it easier for some fucking low-income black family in Harlem to start a fucking coffee shop. He's talking about the ability for the United Fruit Company to invade Latin American countries and set up fucking banana republics, so they can get better prices off the fruit they buy from the farms that they till with slaves. So yeah, like we're dealing with a completely different ballpark here. But again, additionally, this is just factually incorrect. No, if you want people to have a better shot at succeeding in life, they need to be provided certain basic provisions with regards to education and economic opportunity, and it's really that simple.
It's not that simple, by the way.
Leading mind, by the way.
The greatest source of inequality has been special privileges granted by government. The government, you may talk...
Yes. The greatest source of inequality has been affirmative action and welfare. You can argue that one of the greatest forms of inequality has been the government imposing racial inequality on the population, which is totally true, if that's the case. But he's arguing against ways of fixing the consequences of those impositions of racism, so...
A great deal. There may be a lot of talk about how we're going to eliminate inequality. But if you look at, go back to your case of Britain, is there any doubt that one of the effects of governmental intervention in Britain has been to create new opportunities for special classes? That the way to get wealthy in a...
I don't care about this. We're here for Sewell, not for Friedman. First of all, he's dead, Lamau. Hey, yeah, if his ideas were so good, how is he dead, huh? Second of all, this is actually the first full video of Sewell I've ever seen, and he kind of comes off like a smug fucking moron. I'll look at some of his later content at some point in the future, but yeah, he just kind of looks like an idiot. I mean, these arguments are incredibly fucking vacuous. There's absolutely no reason to believe they're... Like, this is just like YouTuber shit. Sewell's argument. This video is entitled "He Destroyed Egalitarianism," and in the contents of this video, the only thing that he did was conflate equality of opportunity with equality of outcome, and then say that black people actually don't want to be paid equally for fair work. That's it. 2 minutes of this video was him speaking, and he embarrassed himself every time he opened his mouth, and that's all it takes for these dumb fucks to, oh, you got him.
And the only thing that came out of this dude's mouth this entire time were straight lies, because there's no way that it's true that welfare is the reason these countries are prosperous. No way. He said it himself, economic freedom. That's the cause. It isn't anything else. He misinterpreted what he was thinking of. It isn't it isn't wealth mobility that brings about economic freedom. It's economic freedom that brings about wealth mobility. This is not complicated stuff. What's this guy's name? Vaush. 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 Did Destiny be partnered? But yeah, that's all. I just wanted to watch that one video. I realized the guy is retired. Tehran should come after one of these guys. Maybe he already has. No, he has not.
It's your life. It's your future. Some of us has kids. And our future, when you have kids, your future suddenly gets extended. Because, yeah, when you die, it's all gone. But while you're alive, it's not. While you're alive, you're thinking about your kids' future. And part of your happiness, part of what makes you feel good is knowing that they will have a future. If I knew my kids didn't have a future, it would be hard. I think for anybody here who has kids, that would be devastating. That would be devastating now. Not after you're dead. After you're dead, you're dead. So posterity is about now. When Ayn Rand said fighting for the future is living it today, she meant it. It really is living it today. And living for it today. And fighting for it today. Look, 240 years ago, a group of men came together to run an experiment called the United States of America. They created something that had never been seen on the planet. A government organized to protect individual rights. Nobody thought that would ever happen. Nobody knew it could happen. Nobody had the concepts to make it possible for it to happen. And here they made it. They did it. They fought for it. They created it. For 240 years, that vision of what is possible to man has been under attack daily. First, it was small, wasn't significant, although the fact of slavery was a big drag on that vision. It's been intensifying. For the last 100 years, it's been an intense attack on that vision. And today, it's hard to find the remnants of that vision still out there. These bastards want to take our lives. They want to take your liberty. They're already taking your property. And they want to make it impossible for you to pursue your happiness. God damn it, we gotta fight them. Not a little bit, not sometimes, not somewhere, but everywhere, all the time, constantly, not as a duty, but because this is what your life necessitates. I'm in this fight. I hope you are too. Thank you.